Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. In one of my previous videos I told you that in Austria the new government, or let's say the same government under a new chancellor, has declared that they are preparing a law for mandatory jabs until February. If you haven't taken the jab until then, you will be facing a hefty fine, and if you can't or don't want to pay that, you will go to jail. And the biannual subscription is already included in that bill. That means after 6 months, I think it was, you will lose that green status and you will have to take the jab again. And if you refuse, once again, big fine or jail. I believe that over 1/3 of Austrians are still free of that pharmaceutical agent. Their bodies are pure and clean, so to speak. And of course, they are terrified at the idea that their state, their government, would force them against their will to be injected with that dubious substance. In today's video, I will talk about how these Austrians responded to that threat scenario that the state is building up in front of them. And also in the end, I want to talk about how Germany responds to that, or how Germany gets inspired once again by Austria or Austrians. But before that, allow me to thank all my supporters and my subscribers. Share these videos if you find them useful, leave a comment down below, and also check me out on other social media platforms. The links are down below. You can also support my work via Patreon or Subscribestar if you want to. Alright, so normally in Austria there is a very active patriotic scene, but also some students and some libertarians, etc. So these demonstrations are normally well organized, and also the Austrian Freedom Party is organizing some of these demonstrations usually, but this time they think that a demonstration, or let's say just another demonstration, because there have been so many, I reported on that in some cases, they think it doesn't cut it anymore, they need to go further. But of course, they want to stay peaceful. So the only other thing you can do then is a general strike. The idea is then that you just stop working and force the regime to change their plans. Now, of course, this is not a normal strike like in a company when you fight for higher wages or better working conditions. This is a general strike against the government. So today on December 1st, there was a trial run, so to speak, or a warning for the government. So many people took a day off from work, for example, and you know, it's a Wednesday, it's during the week, it's a work day, of course. This is not one of those Saturday, Sunday weekend demonstrations. This is during the week, but still thousands of Austrians throughout the country, in all the capitals of the federal states, they got together and they protested, or let's say they went on a public strike. And of course, in a strike, you don't just leave work and sit around at home. No, there is a protest, there are events and speeches and so on and so forth. And this is what they did. So I believe that the main event, the actual strike, then should start on December 12th, if I'm informed correctly. And this, as I said, was a test run only. So that phase in which we are right now, in my opinion, can be described as both the system, the regime, and the resistance, the people flexing their muscles at each other and trying to intimidate each other. You could see that really well on the side of the Austrian regime in past weeks. They were going from, oh, you have to pay 100 euros a month, or we will lock you up, or you cannot go to a cafe anymore, or you have to do this and that, to now mandates and forced jabs and also big fines and jail time. And of course, there is a strategy behind releasing these scare scenarios not all at once, but bit by bit over time. The idea is that more and more people get scared at these successive revelations and that they take the jab before they actually have to declare the mandate. But so far as I have seen, this has not worked. Less people and not more people have taken the jab in Austria, so that stratagem is not working. So the regime is just trying to intimidate the people more and more and talk about more scary and over-the-top punishments. The Austrian people, on the other hand, have shown thus far that they will not be intimidated and that they're ready to go on a general strike as a means of civil disobedience in order to make the regime reconsider. And just like in Germany, these events were really peaceful. I mean, law enforcement was very confrontative, but the people, the actual protesters, they were very peaceful, and we really saw that all different kinds of people took to the streets today. There were students, there were more lefty, alternative hippie kind of people, there were patriots, there were old retired people, and so on and so forth. So it is something that we would call a Querfront, that is a coalition, a front that goes, well, as we say, perpendicular to the usual political front lines like left or right. But one can see that libertarian-minded people and patriotic Austrians were probably the majority. Alright, so briefly I want to say what is the situation in this context in Germany. Germany is of course the larger country, but Austria in this case is the test laboratory, and then in Germany the same policies will be rolled out on a larger scale after they have been tested in Austria, of course. As you probably know, Angela Merkel is still the acting chancellor, but Mr. Olaf Scholz, who was the vice chancellor under her before, or technically still is, he is the designated new chancellor. His party quote unquote won the elections to the Bundestag, and he formed now a coalition with the Green Party and the so-called Liberal Party. He has not been elected chancellor yet, but he is seen by everyone as the next chancellor, and he holds some authority in that context, of course. He already declared that he also wants a jab mandate in Germany and that he will vote for it, and that they want to prepare a law that will take effect in January or February, also in the German Bundestag. They also have a new health task force, a virus task force, and the head of that is supposed to be some German army general. Yeah, that doesn't sound dystopian and weird at all, right? So we can see that during the last week, many parties and politicians have completely flipped on their opinion. They made promises and they gave the people their word that with them and under their rule and with their party, there would never be such a thing as forced jabs and jab mandates. Out of the question, will never happen. Fake news, conspiracy theory, absolutely wrong. We would never do that, etc. And now, just during 1 week, they all flipped, and there is only one party, of course, that was always against these totalitarian, authoritarian measures, and that is still against that, and that is the opposition party of Germany, that is the AfD. They are the only party that accepts the bodily autonomy of the Germans and who are speaking out against this insanity. But as we all know, they just have a little bit above 10% in the Bundestag. Regionally, of course, in the east, they are a little bit stronger, but they're nowhere in a state government. And they're nowhere near to have anything to say on the federal level, obviously. So I think the upcoming days in Austria especially are very crucial, are very important for the way to the future. If the Austrian resistance can stop this mandate, can stop this law that the government is preparing right now, then the rest of Europe has a fighting chance, because the European Commission, I should add, under Ursula von der Leyen, has already declared that there should be a EU-wide mandatory jab. So that means nowhere in the EU would you be safe from this insanity. So you can all see in which direction this is going. The state wants to decide what molecules must be in your body. They can inject you against your will with some kind of messenger RNA that makes your cell produce proteins that it normally wouldn't produce. And make no mistake, this will not stop here. This is not the end of the line, or this is not a one-time thing and it's a temporary crisis and then we would never use such a law or such measures ever again. No, of course they will apply that to other stuff. And I guess you don't need to be too creative in order to come up with a couple of nasty things that they will probably do next. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below, and I try to keep you posted in upcoming videos. Thank you. Servus, Kameraden.